All right, I'm going to go ahead and get going. Want to appreciate you guys joining me tonight for an introduction to what in the world is technology commercialization. I like to do this especially for students who are interested in the field and or just want to know a little bit more about what do you do when you have an idea, especially at an academic institution. This is going to be a hopefully a brief enough presentation. Happy to end with any Q&A and answer questions. My name is Ian McClure. I'm the Executive Director of the UK Office of Technology Commercialization. This office of ours, UK OTC, is the office at the university that manages all of the inventions that come out of the great minds that we have across faculty, staff, and even students. We work with them to try to develop some economic impact. We try to develop those ideas into products, into startup companies, into partnerships that can help those technologies save or improve lives. What I'm going to do is walk you through the process, a little bit about what our office does when we are endeavoring to commercialize a new technology, even if it's just an idea and needs the concept to be proven, and all of the resources that we bring to bear in that process. Our mission is to advance innovation that makes a difference. You might note that it is not the mission to monetize ideas. It is not the mission to generate revenues for the university. What we try to do is take innovation, take ideas that can make a difference by saving or improving lives. And that can happen in many different ways. And we work with those ideas to give them the best opportunity for outcome, for productization and or for some implementation into the market, so that those ideas can see real outcome. Our office does this in a few ways. We help build the Kentucky's innovation ecosystem. So the ecosystem around us, the innovation ecosystem, is the ecosystem of people that provide entrepreneurial education, coaching, mentorship, the investor community here in the state. There's lots of support services that need to bring an innovation to bear, and we play a big role in all of that. We work cooperatively with innovators to strategically assess and protect their technologies. Working cooperatively with the people who come up with the ideas is instrumental to the commercialization process. And then finally, we cultivate entrepreneurship and co-create new technology startups. So one of the ways that we love to try to commercialize the new ideas that get brought to our office is by developing startup companies. And we have lots of programs, services, and an entire team called our New Ventures team that is dedicated to this process. I should have warned you before I started this that I have a dog, and my dog loves to come in and out. And I need to go get my dog right now, so it comes in this door. Give me 1 second, sorry. The joys of working from home. All right, I mentioned our team. We have 3 teams outside of our student employees. We have an intellectual property development team, a licensing team, and a new ventures team. The IP development team works to protect the intellectual property. The licensing team works to identify partnerships and negotiate the agreements that help transition our technologies outside of the university. And our new ventures team works with our startup companies. By the way, did you know that we have about 69 startup companies active in the world, many of them right here in Lexington? And our new ventures team works with those startup companies and with the entrepreneurial ecosystem that I mentioned to make sure that those startup companies are serviced and have the support services that they need. So outside of those 3 teams, we also have a number of student employees. We have a group called OTC Fellows. This is for graduate students, PhD candidates, postdocs that work in our office on a paid basis. They spend 10 hours a week with us, and they do our market evaluation and technology research that helps us assess new technologies to help us determine, is this a technology that has commercial viability to it? We rely on this work. It's a fun program, and we're always looking to recruit new graduate students to our work. We also have an OTC ambassadors and e-apprenticeship program. This is routinely for undergraduate students that are interested in this process and innovation and commercialization. And we have a program that pays them to work with us as well, more often with our startup community and with our new ventures. All right, so a bit about our process. Well, it's a process that has many steps. It starts with protecting confidentiality when we're sharing information. We work to evaluate the markets and what we call prior art that's out there. Patents by themselves necessarily need to be novel. And so we work to help determine the novelty of the ideas that are brought to us. And when we say prior arts, that means the arts or the science or the ideas that are published already, whether it's patent literature or whether it's in a newsletter that's published in Iceland. We look to find those things and decide, is this idea actually new? So we do that work. Then we work with outside counsel to protect the intellectual property. We identify licensees and partnerships. We monitor royalty payments. We do receive about $2 to $2.5 million a year. Our office does off of royalty payments for companies that utilize our technologies. And we distribute portions of those monies back to the inventors. We've cut checks of about $6 million to UK inventors since 2010. And we want that number to go up and up and up. And then finally, we assist in training and entrepreneurship. We teach new entrepreneurs, faculty, staff, student entrepreneurs about the entrepreneurship process, how to build new companies, how to raise capital, and those things. We're at a time right now that is probably the most active that UK has ever been in this space. You can see the growth in metrics here: inventions disclosed to our office, patents filed, licenses executed, startups licensed. We're at a sort of a time of great momentum at UK. This just speaks to the culture that this is encouraged at our university amongst faculty, staff, and students. The leadership of the university want an entrepreneurial environment where ideas can flow, and this is just indicative here through the growth of those stats and where we are. All right, I mentioned the beginning of the process, protecting information. The commercialization process sometimes relies on whether we capture and protect information. But before we can protect an idea via intellectual property, like filing a patent, we have to protect that information from others with whom we share the information when we collaborate. And a lot of the best ideas come out of collaboration. So we share information under what we call non-disclosure agreements that protects the confidentiality of of the university's data, information, know-how. We have a material transfer agreement. We do over 600 of those per year. These are agreements that help us transfer biological materials, equipment, or other things that are proprietary to the university to collaborators, whether they are other universities or companies. And then we do what we call DUAs, data use agreements. These are growing fast every year. These are the agreements under which we transfer data. Databases, access to online digital databases, and that's the fastest growing area for us of agreements because data, especially digitalization of data, is growing every year. All right, to just impress upon you how important this stuff is, we're not the only university that does this. And it's probably not a surprise. We're one of about 200 universities that report this kind of information, commercialization, entrepreneurship, intellectual property, to an association called AUTUM, which used to be the Association for University Technology Managers. Now it's just called AUTUM. But AUTUM collects this data from 200 universities every year. And last year, 2019, you can see the economic impact from this activity. Over 700 new products are created based on ideas that have come from faculty, staff, and students at universities. Almost 1,000 startup companies were developed across the country by universities. So there's a lot of economic impact that's happens here. Jobs flow from this. There's over 3 million jobs that have been created by universities, spin out startup companies in the last 15 years. So this is big stuff, real economic impact, especially around local economies. Okay, when we look at a snapshot of our process, we kind of distill it down. It's never linear like this, but if it were, we like to show it as if it could be. The red box here, research, disclosure, and evaluation. That's where our process starts. Oftentimes, ideas are brought to us out of our research laboratories by faculty, staff, or students that do experiments, they do validation studies, they try to come up with concepts and prove them out with data, and they disclose a discovery to us. That disclosure point then gets evaluated. So that's where I'm going to head next over the next couple of slides. All right. Our commercialization process starts with intellectual property. The importance of this is not just to the economy or to the university. The importance of this sometimes have great impact to you, the student, the researcher, the faculty, or the staff researcher. It increases by patenting your invention. There are empirical studies that show it increases your opportunity for funding. It makes you more likely to be cited if you publish a paper or noticed by your peers. You are 12 times more likely to be amongst the top cited in your field if you're publishing papers. If you also patent those discoveries. And then students just gain real world access through this process. They learn about translational research, making impact with their ideas, what intellectual property does for that process. I actually teach a class. It's open to law students, MBA students, and then any other graduate students on campus. And if you're an undergraduate that would like to ever audit the course, I'm happy to open it up for you. It's called The Law and Business of IP Management. And it's about sort of the global economy and the intersection of business and intellectual property, and why we live today in an intellectual property-based economy or an intangible asset-based economy. Cool class. Feel free to come learn more about it. All right, public benefit. The reasons that we file intellectual property sometimes is not as intuitive as it might be. You might think it's all about just protecting the idea. We need to protect it. We need to have exclusive ownership over it. We need to make sure that we have it and no one else has it. Well, actually, it's a little bit the opposite. The reason that we file patents around the best ideas that come to us is because if we don't, we will not be able to form partnerships with investors or companies or develop startup companies, because those startup companies won't be able to get investment if we don't have the protection around the idea, which incentivizes continued investment in developing the idea or productizing it. Okay, let me distill that down. In the drug development space, it costs on average hundreds of millions of dollars to billions of dollars to develop a drug and take it to market. If the cure for cancer is brought to our office and we don't patent it, and then we just publish a paper that says we found the cure for cancer, right? No investor is now going to invest in that. That's going to die on the vine, unfortunately, because business is business, and companies or investors are not going to invest in something that they can't reap the benefits from. And they can't reap the benefits from that idea if they have to openly compete with others that have free access to it, right? So we protect the intellectual property so that we can form partnerships, solicit investment, and move it to market. Okay, a couple quick points. And another quick point that I have to get my dog. All right. Published papers do not include all prior art. The academic literature, that body of literature, is not the only place where we can find prior art or ideas that came before us. So sometimes we have to look also at the patent literature. This happens earlier, the better, right? So we work with our researchers, our students, our staff to come to us with ideas to not just look at scientific journals or the literature that they can find online, but also through the patent literature. By the way, 91% of patents are run by companies. We look at the patent literature as well to make sure that where the research or the idea is headed to a patentable place, a patentable space. So if you were going to start this process, you would come to our website. This is just a quick screenshot of what our website looks like. And we'll send these slides out to you so you can find us. But once you come to our website, you'll find the Inventors tab, and there's a quick little thing at the very top that says Submit an Invention. Well, that button takes you to what we call our invention report. This invention report is what you would fill out to submit an invention to us for evaluation. It probably takes 20 to 30 minutes, but we'd like to have as much information about your idea as we can. Once we receive that disclosure, we start to assess it. I mentioned our OTC fellows. They do research. We evaluate the idea. We look at alternative technologies. What are the advantages of this relative to the alternative technologies? The market dynamics. Is this a market that looks like it has a need for this technology? We then meet with the inventor. We kind of give them our feedback. We get their feedback based on our findings. And then we refine our evaluation from there. We take it to what we call an intellectual property committee. This is a committee we have here on campus of peer faculty researchers across a diverse set of disciplines that can provide technical feedback and ultimately determine whether UK should what we call pursue appropriate protection for this idea. What can you do during this process? So you as the inventor can do a lot of things. You want to continue your research and developing the idea. We need to continue to validate the idea by getting more data. You coordinate with us on new developments, on any improvements on that idea that can happen over time. You will assist our working with outside counsel to file those patents. And that can be a long process. Once you file a patent, it's about a 2 to 3 year process until you can actually get an issued patent, right? So there's a lot to do there. So there's a lot for you to do as the inventor to assist us in that process. Okay, the next sort of box in this process for us. We evaluate, but now we have to take it to market. Well, when we take it to market, for us, this is what we call customer discovery. We're marketing our technologies to get feedback from the market. But we're not just marketing to say, do a deal with us. We're marketing to ask questions about product market fit. Is this something that this idea has a need? And if so, who's paying for it? And does it actually fit the market need that's been expressed? And so the customer discovery process can take days, weeks, even months, depending on how many people we need to get in touch with, who the customer is. And the process is a feedback loop for us. It helps us determine, is this something that is going to actually fill an unmet need in the market? Once we find a partner, based on the feedback, sometimes it's a startup company, sometimes it's an established company, then we start negotiating a license. That license is for access to the intellectual property rights that we own. When, from our perspective, the university, everything is gravy, right? Everything has value. Everything is an opportunity. We want to say this is the best thing since sliced bread. But to the other side, right? For them, they're going to have to, the company, the pharma company, the med device company, whoever it is going to have to invest in developing the product and testing the product and making sure it works and getting past regulatory processes. So for them, they see cost, effort, risk. And so those are the two sides that we have to marry when we negotiate that license agreement. The license agreement is essentially a grant of rights to utilize the patent that we have filed for commercial productization. And then, of course, the startup. This is one of our favorite areas to work in. We do lots of things. We have a new ventures team, 4 people dedicated to working with our startups. They help team build. They help provide advisory on how to incorporate a company. We do pitch coaching. We help develop business models. We help in capital raise. We develop networks. We support going and getting grant funds to help those startups persevere, kind of what we call the valley of death, where it has to get through productization, but it's not in a position where private investors would probably invest yet. It's still too early. So that's a lot of the stuff that we do. This is just a snapshot of some of the companies that we have formed. Almost all of these are based right here in Lexington. Some really good stories behind these. If you want to Google and just find the websites of some of these, I encourage you to. Some really neat technologies that have come out of the university and companies that are doing some really cool things. The one that just popped up in the bottom left, Mosquito Mate, is one of my favorite to talk about. It's a company that's garnered a lot of attention. They've developed 12 jobs right here in Lexington by forming a partnership with Verily, the former Google Life Sciences company. It's a great story if you have a chance to read some articles about Mosquito Mate or check out their website. All right, we partner through programs. So a lot of the education that we do for our inventors, students, staff, faculty, is through a number of programs: entrepreneurial education programs, proof of concept funding. We have programs that provide funding, internal funding to some of our inventors to develop their technologies. Accelerator programs where we take a cohort of promising entrepreneurs through a series of education topics where they end up pitching their technology to a panel of judges or investors or to us. So a lot of neat programs. We have a list on our website under the tab programs if you want to click on that and see the drop down of all the programs that we offer. And it runs the gamut from entrepreneurship, startup development, proof of concept work, intellectual property protection. So I encourage you to go check out all of those. We like to connect with the community, and we do this in many ways. We have a newsletter, we have social media, we do events, big events here on campus. One of the biggest events that we do, our sort of seminal event of the year, is called Patent Palooza. Patent Palooza is our celebration of innovation here at UK. We celebrate inventions, we celebrate commercialization deals, we celebrate startup wins, lots of things. It's a fun event. The president comes and says a few words, and we're having one this October, and would love for more of our students to come check us out. But if you can't do that, check us out on LinkedIn, check us out on Twitter, check us out subscribe to our newsletter, Commercialization Connect, and lots of ways to connect with us and see what UK is doing to support inventors, ideas, commercialization, or startup work. All right, I'm going to finish up with 5 things that I need you to remember from this talk. The first, understand that if you have an idea, one of the most important things you can do is differentiate your idea. Make sure that your idea is clearly differentiated from other technologies in the market that you know of, right? How do you do this? Well, the best way to do it is literally just draw a table like the one you see here, where we can actually compare aspects of our idea or our technology to other products currently in the market. So differentiation is the way that you pitch your technology to investors, to partners, to lots of people, to the United States Patent and Trademark Office. If you want a patent, you have to differentiate from them, from other patents. So differentiate and work towards advantages in differentiation. All right, number 2, your leverage is your intellectual property. Remember what I said about if you have an idea, you have to protect it, not just so you can have exclusivity over it, but because that exclusivity is what actually creates inclusivity through partnership, right? Investors, you're 4,000 more times more likely to raise funds if you're a startup company if you have a patent than if not. 4,000 times more likely, right? Investors invest in things that have protection around it and frown upon those where there are no barriers to entry, okay? So your leverage is your intellectual property. Number 3, set milestones based on your tech development process. When you have an idea, you are still far away from actually seeing that idea in market. And you're going to go through a development process where you have to prove your concept. You have to further evaluate that concept through pilots, like a beta product, beta tested. And then you have to actually develop it for productization and then enter the market through our customer discovery process, early sales. And so benchmark your steps, your milestones based on these tech development steps, and that will help you get through the process. Number 4, map those milestones to funding goals, because each of those milestones I just mentioned is going to require some funding in a lot of cases, right? The earlier steps can be supported through friends and family, through federal funds, things like that. Whereas the later stages, usually there's private investment and angel funding and things like that you can go after. But it's important to map milestones to funding goals so you understand what it's going to cost to get from A to Z, across the valley of death, as I like to call it. All right, my last point that I'd like you to remember: come work for us. I mentioned our fellows program and our OTC ambassadors program. If you're interested in inventorship, in commercialization, in startup entrepreneurship, this is the office. at UK to do it. Come get a great experience. We're looking for smart students all the time to work with us, paid positions, and you get great experience. You work with the community. You go face to face with investors and other startup founders in our community. It's a cool experience. You can find out more about our student employment programs on our website, and would love for you to come check us out. And that's all I have. And I'd like to leave it right here on this slide so it impresses upon you. Any questions?
Yes, Ian, we have a few questions. The first question is, why is it important for me to know this information as an undergraduate researcher?
It's a really good question. As an undergraduate researcher, we like to show open the doors to this world as early as possible, right? Some of the best graduate researchers and some of the best startup founders are those that were interested in this stuff from the get-go, right? And you dug in. This is the place to do it. And some of the best ideas come out of not just researchers, but those that are actually practicing and using tools and devices and tinkering with things and saying, hey, this would be a good idea if this product did this. That's some of the best ideas come out of that stuff. And to be honest, our undergraduate researchers are often closer to the market than our PhD tenured faculty researchers, right? Who have spent their time in research, but sometimes are a bit disconnected, can be, from actual market need. And so it's neat for us to actually engage with our graduate students that might think about this stuff and explore.
Thanks, Ian. Second question is, how would I know if I need to protect my research?
You come talk to us. Sometimes you can't know until you do the proper analysis, patent research, look at the patent landscape and those things. So what we like to say is come talk to us early and often, right? When you think you have an idea, don't try to prove the idea and try to understand whether it's patentable or not yourself. Come work with us. And that's what we're doing. That's what we're here for.
And why do I need an MTA? Can I just verbally agree to share my resources?
You could, but then you could lose it. And so the material transfer agreement, the MTA, is what protects the information, the materials that are going out from the university. And it's not even just about controlling use. It's about limitation of liability back to you and the university as well. If you send a biological material somewhere without an MTA and they do something they're not supposed to do with it, like use it in another human species and it causes some injury, then there could be liability as well. So there's multiple reasons why an MTA is important.
And the last question we have is, what does it mean for me if my technology is licensed?
What does it mean for you if your technology is licensed? It means we've met a commercialization milestone, and hopefully either a startup company that you're involved in or an established company that has shown interest in this is now committing commercially reasonable efforts to take that idea to market, right? It means that you have the ability to collect royalties. If a product is actually sold, we'll collect those monies and we'll distribute it to you. And it also means you've gotten farther than most people get. Most ideas don't even get to the point where we effectuate a commercialization license agreement. So kudos to you if you've gotten there.
That's all the questions.
All right. Okay. Well, we appreciate it. Thanks for your time and for listening. And again, consider our OTC ambassador positions, any apprenticeships, and come speak with us if you have any ideas.